and welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemons, and Daredevil Born Again's placement in the MCU timeline has rightfully been up for speculation recently. This has been a common thread of discussion since the premiere. We're on episode 4, and we still don't have evidence in show, and Marvel hasn't confirmed anything. How are you going to show us a New Year celebration without disclosing the year? That's crazy. That's a crazy thing to do. That's crazy work. We've had to go to creatives and actors for any signs or leeway, and it still can be really confusing and also sometimes wrong. So in this video, I'll be going over exactly what y'all know and recognize as Marvel's timeline problem in Daredevil Born Again. But first, be sure to check out nerdride.shop, where you can always find the latest and greatest in New Rockstars merch. Right now, we've got some designs inspired by Daredevil Born Again, like this Daredevil Punisher face-off shirt. We also got some merch inspired by the Fantastic Four, Star Wars, and now Severance. I haven't kept up with Severance, but I know y'all have, and those make really good gifts. There's other fandoms over there for you to wear on your back. Support the channel and check out nerdride.shop. Okay, let's get into this timeline video. Before I get into it, I want to be real with you. If for some reason Big Marvel is watching, I'm not upset about the continuity in the timeline. I watch your movies, and if I go, this doesn't make sense, I continue to watch your movies and cheer for the home team. I'm just here for the ride, and this is also my job. And for y'all watching, we can be completely correct about the timeline and point out the continuity errors and plot holes, but at the end of the day, Marvel just has to confirm it. When they inevitably do in the MCU handbook, we'll see this was all a mistake due to a Miss Minutes error. Before Daredevil Born Again premiered, we were really confused whether it would be connected to Netflix's Daredevil, and we didn't know where it stood on the MCU timeline. Seeing as every cameo Fisk and Matt have made since the season 3 finale has been in blip flashbacks and random post-blip encounters, well, now we know that they're connecting it to Netflix's Daredevil, and it rightfully warrants some questions. Who else in Daredevil survived the blip? What were they doing, and where were they? And those questions help build a better understanding of the overarching linear story the MCU is trying to tell us. At least to me, that's why the timeline is so important, why I need that continuity. I'm sure for like a lot of others, it's just, you know, a lot of actually, which is a common thing to say in the nerd space, so I get it, but I just want to know how they're all connected. It's a shared universe. I digress. Showrunner Dario Scartapani told CBR that the series takes place about 7 or 8 years after the end of the Netflix show. And in the same interview, Sana Amanat, EP for Ms. Marvel and EP for Daredevil Born Again, said it's around 2027 technically. Amanat explained, adding that she didn't want to get lost in the weeds because I might be wrong, which honestly, girl, when it comes to the MCU timeline, you're probably gonna be wrong. The timeline's been messed up since the damn blip. It's not your fault. Today's video is sponsored by Temu. In case you don't know, Temu is your one-stop shop for pretty much everything. And I mean, half of our office got here via Temu. Recently, we've been loving this motion sensing tripod. It's perfect for some behind the scenes content we've been working on, and it costs less than $30. Temu is now celebrating their 2nd anniversary campaign where they will give you $100. Yes, you heard me. They will actually send you $100 cash to you. Just download Temu using the link in our description box or scan the QR code that's floating somewhere around my head. Then search our code DWA6224 to get the promotion page and win $100 cash. This will apply for new users with qualifying orders. Guys, it is $100 cash. Why wouldn't you take it? Let me show you what I got on Temu for around $100. This tripod plus this ice maker and these glass storage containers. Go get cash and use Temu to shop for whatever else you need to start making content of your very own. If what she says is true regarding 2027, the first episode of Daredevil Born Again would have to be in 2025. Mathing and doing the math, Daredevil season 3 took place a few months after the Defender, so it lands it in 2017 or 2018. The MCU wiki marked it as November 1st, 2017. 7 or 8 years from November 1st, 2017 is November 2024 or 2025 if it's 2018. Foggy dies, then we get a 1-year jump, which would be 2026 if it's 2025. Though we're also getting into a new year, so 2027, as Sana said. Now that doesn't sound like an issue. That sounds actually fine. And shows like She-Hulk that takes place in spring to summer of 2025 that aligns with Daredevil still wearing the suit, which means Foggy died in the fall or winter, which checks out with the November 1st date. Or for shows like Echo that takes place in spring of 2025 before Foggy's death, Fisk is starting the turn to become mayor, which still makes sense to be fully involved in it by 2026. Arguably the weirdest part is the zero mention of anything else, like Ms. Marvel that takes place allegedly at the time of Foggy's death. I will say, they are making moves to already address Kamala in New Jersey with Yusuf Khan, her father, appearing later in Born Again, so these pieces are being built as we speak. I'm not expecting Daredevil to create a team of youngerish soups, but hoping for a sort of mentorship for Kamala. Though if the current year is 2027, it's weird we haven't acknowledged Captain America 4. If the movie works between between 2026 and 2027, I feel like we'd see more political plans and arrangements from Brave New World influencing Fisk or the people on the BB report. If Thunderbolts is around 2026 to 2027's timeline as well, I want to see how New York is reacting to the new Avengers Tower. The thing is, if Born Again continues, we'll eventually see or have heard of Sentry making people turn into shadows, and this is what I need to see. Again, for me, the timeline is important for the MCU's connective tissue. It's a shared universe, and I need to believe it beyond a team-up Avengers movie or just like a slight mention or an almost name drop. So to believe the Daredevil series spans over some 2026 through 2027, I want to see what happens when Sentry's causing mayhem. I want to see how the events of Brave New World and our president being sent to the raft affected Fisk's campaign against vigilantes and people with powers. I just want to see the connective tissue at play, and for Marvel to give the creative teams an actual answer rather than an estimate when, again, this is a shared universe. This is also personally just my irritation. Most people are also just frustrated because Charlie Cox told SFX magazine it's 6 years after the season 3 Daredevil in January 2025, and Bullseye actor Wilson Bethel in another interview with Collider says it's been 5 years since season 3 of Daredevil. But that's also actor math. I think at this point, unless the actor had a hand in the show's development, we shouldn't really take the timeline guesses to heart. Part of the problem also isn't in the creatives. It isn't in Scario. It isn't in the actors. They're making do with what they have, and it makes sense that they're doing the math off when the show was canceled or around then, because even if the 7 or 8 year pitch idea that Dario gave us is completely inaccurate, is completely wrong, they're still taking into account the blip and what's already been established in Echo that's directly referenced in the show. They wrote for that, and that's not bad. Again, what's annoying is simply just not knowing. Though they're mindful of the blip, they just ain't talking about it in the show. Even if Dario is completely wrong, they ain't telling us the years, so people are irritated, and that makes sense. Also, in my opinion, this isn't as bad as past occurrences where Marvel blatantly put the wrong date, which I know in Spider-Man Homecoming, that's still a Sony Marvel movie, I understand, but it doesn't feel that hard to miss that flag, you understand? Like, it feels like that was a big error. This is also the reason why they don't put the dates on things anymore. Irritation doesn't stop there. We're also confused where Wilson Fisk and Vanessa's relationship went. Season 3's finale ended with Fisk going to jail and Vanessa being freed. Now jump to 7 or 8 years in Daredevil Born Again, we learn that Vanessa and Fisk hit stormy waters during his healing process following Hawkeye, then running to harass Echo during Echo, leaving Vanessa to really lead their criminal empire while he was around just playing idiot somewhere else. So when did Fisk get out of prison? How did he get out of prison? And when did Vanessa take full charge? Arguably, some of these questions may be seen later in Born Again, but it should look as follows. In the fall of 2017, Fisk is in prison and Vanessa is alone, though she's free. Then the blip happened in spring of 2018. We don't know if Vanessa blipped, but we know that Fisk didn't. I assume between the events of Daredevil series finale and the blip, Fisk was able to break out of prison, which would be a great thing to see how confinement worked during the blip. What does that look like? Was it a single guard that just freed them? Or did all the gates just naturally open? Hopefully we see this in a flashback. During the blip, Fisk was still doing crime things with Echo, and Daredevil was trying to stop them at every chance he got. Mind you, we still don't know where Vanessa is, but honestly at this point, myself, Jessica Clemons, I assume she kind of blipped. 2023, everyone returns, so that would absolutely include Vanessa if she did blip. 2024, Christmas time, we learn that Fisk has been making big moves to run New York, and I assume Vanessa is here at this point. He's then shot in the face by Echo, which Vanessa was there by his side in the hospital when he was healing. 2025 comes, he dips to go find Echo, which Vanessa struggled with emotionally, but pushed those feelings aside and continued to run their business. We don't know the exact date he returned to New York from Oklahoma and Echo, but in that time, Vanessa started banging Adam, I assume, or at least when Fisk returned but was running for mayor and more preoccupied with his criminal empire than with his Queenpin. The wiki says in 2026 is when Vanessa sat with the 5 families, which would still make sense since we're moving to the new year of 2027. So her beef with Fisk has been about a half a year, waiting by his side during the healing process and loving him, and a year and some change resenting him for leaving her in their criminal empire. Some have questioned why Vanessa would cheat on Fisk if he was gone in Oklahoma for a few weeks or a month, if that's the case, but we also gotta remember as soon as he came back, he began his campaign for mayor or just preparing to run. This is also where Vanessa felt alone because Fisk wasn't being transparent about what he was doing. Vanessa's leading their criminal empire, keeping him updated so he knows what she's doing. In this case, they're just not partners because he's not treating her like one, so she's felt very alone even when he's physically still there. Now, as for the timeline for how we see the Punisher, that's a little wild because season 2 of the Punisher takes place from roughly April to May of 2018, and the final scene is set in August 2018, so that would have been during the blip. The epilogue where we see Frank unloading on these 2 gangs was during the blip. We've brought the Defenders onto Disney Plus, and in an interview with Brad Winderbaum, he did mention how they're acknowledging the Netflix shows. After retooling Daredevil Born Again to stay linked, they basically said, it, let's do it. So Punisher show and the past from the Netflix shows should be linked to the Frank Castle we're seeing in Born Again beyond his cameo in Daredevil. I will also note in that same interview with Winterbomb, he mentions when the Netflix shows were coming out and being made, we were building towards Infinity War and Endgame. So at the time, to say, all right, we're also going to take this television show and wrap our heads around that, it would have been too much, even though we were communicating back and forth. Everyone on the television side and the film side knew what each other was doing, and you can see there's continuity there. The references do line up, but it was just too much for us to wrap our minds around at the time, which I think just highlights the fact that sometimes things just won't add up, but they're actually trying. And Frank Castle unloading at the end of season 2 just speaks reason to how Daredevil knows where he's been hiding in episode 4. During the blip, the two were doing their best, messing things up clearly, and probably have crossed paths. So Frank might not have been blipped, existed during, and then everyone came back in 2023, though it's unknown what he's been doing between then and now, 2027. It looks like he's clearly made a little hideout where he plots. I think an interesting note to take away is absolutely some people, like Powell with the Punisher tattoo, stand by Punisher's ways, but also for those that didn't blip and saw Frank in action, they probably acted like Kate Bishop to Hawkeye, fangirling their asses off. We know Punisher is getting a special presentation, honestly, great move in the right direction. John is writing the script with Ronaldo Marcus Green. They said in an interview, it's like a shotgun blast of a story, but also has the pathos and emotion that you want out of Frank Castle's story. And I low-key hope we see the Punisher during the blip more, to see why Frank was in hiding, work as that bridge for the Netflix to Disney's MCU, but we just don't know yet. Though the idea did come during shooting season 1 of Born Again, so I feel like it was because of that. I hope they're just showing him during the blip. In other news, the other Defender stories they spoke on during the same Entertainment Weekly interview goes as follows. They said, I can't say much, Winterbomb said earlier, but I'll tell you that it's so exciting to be able to play in that sandbox. I can just say that all those variables taken into account, it is certainly something that is creatively extremely exciting and that we are very much exploring, so that's good news. After speaking my piece, I don't necessarily see what the creative said about the timeline being really wrong. It's just conflicting with other reports we've learned from other people in weird times in the show. I think when you look very closely, you see Marvel trying to work with what they've got, and they're trying to address the plot holes or continuities. It's just frustrating to never tell us, leaving us all making our own conclusions using unchecked facts. Though again, give them a chance. They're working with Netflix and Sony to make Marvel content, so wires are inevitably just gonna be crossed, and give ourselves, us nerds, a break for attempting to solve it. Comment down below your thoughts. Follow me at Lulu_Clemons. Subscribe to all 3 channels of the new Rockstars Network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week. I'll see you in Hell's Kitchen.